Hi, thanks for joining me. So I talked about one of my predictions was that I saw we're going into a digital currency system in the future, and just recently the Commonwealth Bank in Australia has now accessed their customers to be able to invest in Bitcoin through the Commonwealth app. And this brought up a lot of fears with people because in their mind it is the step going towards having the governments having total control over us. um, I don't know why people think they are free on this earth, because being free to me is a tribe that lives in the Amazon forests that have no connection to the Western world, where they live totally in nature. They don't have to rely on money, they don't get sicknesses, and they don't have to have possessions as long as they are find natural foods, as long as they can build natural shelters, and they live a very simple life and traditional life. That's freedom. Us people that live in the Western worlds, who have been programmed to believe that we have to go to school and be educated so that we can get a job, so that we can make money, so that we can buy a house, so that we can get married, so that we can have children. That's programming. So if back in the day we were never there was never a thing about getting married to one person, then that wouldn't be a belief today. It's because it started, everyone else starts doing the same thing, and it becomes familiar. Anything in your life that you are familiar with, you are comfortable with. And anything that's coming along to change is going to be unfamiliar, and it can cause fear. So you can be scared of, how am I going to fit in? You know, when you first started your first job, you weren't familiar with it. You didn't know what you were doing. And after 3 weeks of working the same thing each day, it becomes familiar to you, and then you are comfortable. That happens with everything. When you first start a relationship with somebody and you don't really know them, and you're in that excited stage of getting to know them, and then after you've been together for a year and you relax in each other's company, you get to know more about them, and then it becomes familiar, and then you don't feel like you've got your wall of protection up. So anytime you are worried about something that's going to be changing, it's because it's not familiar to you, and you're trying to process, how am I going to fit into this so that I can feel familiar about it, because I don't like the unknown. Fear comes from the unknown. Someone was saying the other day about, if we have no cash in our society in the future, how are we going to send money in a birthday card, or how is the tooth fairy going to come? That to me was like, that's still living in a conditioned way of thinking. Why do children need to have a coin or money under their pillow when they lose a tooth? Where did that start? That is a tradition that started and then got carried on, and now you believe it. Why was it never that fairies are part of nature? Fairies leave a feather under a pillow, or they leave something from nature, a flower. If that was a tradition, that a flower or a feather or a beautiful leaf or something like that was left as a trade for a tooth as part of nature, then we would be doing that today. But somebody started a tradition where money was left under there, and then you believe it's a thing. It's the same. We're actually lying to our children when we've got imaginary Father Christmas and Easter Bunny and tooth fairies. We like to play that game with the kids, because we felt good having that imagination, and you get something. You're getting something back. So of course you want to keep it going, because then you are giving something to your children and they're getting something. And then when they get to that age where you tell them, I've been lying to you your whole life, there is no such thing. That's probably not a good start to our children, to be, even though we're lying to them to, bring joy to them, we are still lying to them. It's like, it's an imaginary thing that we're carrying on. And then a child will come and say, I can see, a spirit, and parents will say, no, you can't. No, there's no such thing as spirit. But they'll tell them about Father Christmas and Easter Bunny being real, but they won't acknowledge that spirits are real. And then they'll tell children that, oh, that's frightening, I don't know, some of this world does not make any sense. So we're also, you read a lot of things, and people are fearful that the governments are going to control it. Well, right now in 2020, I can tell you that the government knows exactly where I've been. They can track my phone. They can see where I shopped through my EFTPOS transactions. There's cameras everywhere. They can see when I've walked out in public. People have been, they've stepped outside while it's been locked down, and the next minute the police are there. They know where we are all the time. They know what's in my bank account. The taxation department can easily access my bank account. So that fear of they're going to know everything about us. Well, yeah, they do know what I'm doing in this world, but they don't know what's in here. They're not going to take my mind away from me. So if I still have control over my attitude, and my attitude is to be happy in myself and happy with my surroundings and grateful for my surroundings, they can't take that away from me. The government can't take away my attitude and my gratitude. That's something I own. It's my soul. They can't take my soul. They might be able to, control my exterior world. And also, they're living in the same world. So why would, if you say a government is going to take over, there's not, one person doesn't make a decision with the government. They have a party with them. So let's say the whole party agrees, it goes through government, like a meeting, and both sides, all sides, everybody that's in there agrees to something. They are also living in this world with us. They are also married with children, and they are bringing their children into the world. So why would they agree to something if it's not going to benefit their own children? It's not one person that's just making a change. It's a group of people that are making a change. It's like, I don't know, like a hospital. There's not one person at the top of a hospital that says this is the way the hospital's going to run. There has to be a committee. There has to be a whole range of people on board who argue points that say, look, we don't think this is right. Well, yes, we do think this is right. There's a group of people, and if they are so powerful, so the fear is that they are so egotistical and so powerful, and they just want more and more power. Why would they create a world where everything is the same? And if they have power over that, then what? Because if someone's power hungry, they're never satisfied. They're never satisfied. So when does it come to a point where they have everything set up the way they want it, and there's nothing else left to take power over? What happens then? And when they die, they can't keep having the power. I think there's a lot of this fear is coming from, we're not familiar with it. Back in, was it 1966, I think it was, when money changed from pounds and shillings into dollars and cents. Everyone had to get used to that, and I'm sure there were so many people that weren't happy with their money changing because it was not familiar to them. And then it progressed, and then all of a sudden we were going from paying cash, we were using a card, we were swiping a card, and we had to get used to that. And there's still people today in their elderly years that still just want to pay with cash. And if they think that cash is going to be taken away, that's really frightening to them, because they're not familiar with it. They don't want to learn about the internet. They don't want to learn about technology. They just want their little world that they used to, because they're controlling that. That world that they're familiar with, they can control everything. The fear is it's going to be unfamiliar and I can't control anything, and that is where I'm frightened. And it's a thing, it's a real thing to live in fear. You know, you can't tell somebody, get with the times, this is moving, you've got to catch up. If they don't want to, that's totally on them. So if you think about what is it that why are you so frightened that you're not going to have any? Are you feeling like they're going to take away your mind? Are they taking away your attitude? Are they going to take your soul? Are you not going to be able to find anything to be grateful for? What is it? What is the fear that you're not familiar with this, and it's the unknown? It's the same as if you're frightened of death. If you're frightened of dying, it's because you don't know what's on the other side. When you've been there and you come back, there is nothing to be frightened of. In fact, it's probably a better place to be than it is here. It's just there. It's fear. So ask yourself, when you're worrying about something and you can't control it, ask yourself the question, what is this fear about? What am I frightened about? Am I frightened of I'm losing control of my surroundings? And if you say, I'm frightened of losing freedom, you're not free. You're living in a world that's programmed. You're not living in an Amazon tribal forest where you are living with nature. You're living in a world where you have to obey rules. That's not freedom. That's just adjusting to what you're used to. So if you start thinking about things that way, you might not be as frightened when they introduce new digital systems. And, you know, I've always, my guides were showing me that we are heading in a much better direction. The direction that we were heading into was more affordable for people, less debt, like living in debt. Is it freedom to have a mortgage? Is it freedom to have huge credit card debt because you want stuff? Is that freedom? So from my way, that the guides were showing me that the way that we're heading is going to be less debt and everything was more affordable. I think people are frightened and think everything's going to be unaffordable, and we're all going to be homeless. The world's going to be homeless. And remember that the people making these decisions are living in the same world. They have to abide by the same rules. They're not exempt. If they make a law, they're not exempt from that law. They have to be part of it as well. So why would they make something that wasn't going to be beneficial to them as well? Just something to think about. And I know I'll get some feedback about this, because when you talk about people having fears and not wanting and being frightened of being familiar, they will, and anger comes up inside them. They can't see things in a like an open-minded way. When fear comes up, anger comes up with fear, because, oh my goodness, I'm losing control, and that creates a lashing out. So thanks for listening to me, and I hope you have an enjoyable day.